Hi, this is Emily Bowen-Moore. This is for Journalism 273 in the Meek School of Journalism and New Media. This is a video tutorial for Photoshop. I'm going to show you a quick instructional video on how to import an image into Photoshop and adjust its resolution. Sometimes we will need to get images, whether they're off the web or another location, but they might not be at an optimum level of resolution for layout and for print. And so that's what we're going to do, is make sure you understand how that works. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into Safari. I've already been researching here. If you go to Google and just punch in shoes, you can get quite a few examples here under images. So I just have some Converse here, which is a pretty common shoe for this exercise. I'm going to view image. It's going to give me just the image here. I'm going to click and drag it to my desktop. Now you can right click and save image as, or you can go up here, or maybe not. You can right click and save the image as. Or you can click and drag it to your desktop. And here, I'm going to minimize this. After I've got it on my desktop, which is really what you want it on your computer. You don't want to just try and click and drag it from the web. Eventually you will put this in a layout and it will need to link to where your original image came from, and so you want that to be on your computer. So I usually just click and drag them to the desktop initially. So I'm going to click and drag it to the Photoshop icon and it will automatically open in Photoshop. And as you can see, it's pretty small. If I want to check the actual size right now, I can go to Image, Image Size. Now, right now, this looks really odd because it's supposed to be 350 inches by 290 inches. However, the resolution is 1 pixel per inch. So that's why it seems so small. You will rarely see a resolution at 1. So we're going to change that. We want it to be optimum level for printing, which is at least 150 ppi. We're going to go ahead and put it at 300. So notice our view here, if that changes, it enlarges drastically. So if I were to keep it at this size, we would see about this much in our screen. And we don't really need it that big. We really need it just 2 or 3 inches to fit on a regular size, letter size sheet of paper. So we can adjust this. If I click on this box right here, resample. Right now it's clicked, so it's preserving all the enlargement details at this size. If I click this, it's going to change to the proportionate size to that resolution. And it's pretty small. It's 1 inch or a little over 1 inch by 0.967 inches, right at 1 inch. We don't need it that small because what it's saying here is that this size, that's the maximum it can be at that size without it pixelating or without it blurring. So that's kind of how you have to look at it. If I enlarge it to 2 or 3 inches, then it may pixelate because this is the maximum size it can be at this resolution. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to go back to click resample though, because when I adjust this, I want it to stay this resolution. If I unclick this and I make it 3 inches, it's going to change my resolution back to a lower resolution because it's working with the size alone. But if I resample, oops, let me go back. 100. Now if I click resample again at this size, I can, if I have this clicked, I can adjust the size and it will stay the same resolution. So you always want to have resample the box here checked. So I'm going to adjust it to 3 now. Now we're still keeping our 300 resolution. It's not lowering our resolution. So we want to increase the size just to a little bigger than what you need. And in this case, we only need them medium thumbnail size. So I like this size. That'll work for us right now. So I'm going to click OK, and you can see it adjust on your screen. Now if I go back up to image, I can also change the color mode. Right now it's in RGB color because we are mainly getting it from the web, And web, of course, is a RGB profile. Now for print, we want to work with the color separation color profile for like with printers, the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So we want to switch to CMYK color. We can do that by going to image mode. And that way you can change it to whatever color mode you are working with. Now we're ready to save this file. Now if you want to check the image size again and make sure everything's good, which it is, we can go either to File, Save As. If you go to just save, it's going to save it as a JPEG and under that same file name. But we want to change it. I'm going to change this to Converse. And JPEGs are okay to use as image files, but they can deteriorate over time. In other words, every time they're resaved, sometimes they lose a little bit of information, sometimes color information. So for image files, I usually like to use the TIFF extension. TIFF preserves that color profile well. It's a little bit bigger of a file, but it also will keep a transparent background. Say if you were doing some photo editing and you wanted to save some of that within the file, TIFFs will preserve those things well. So we've got this saved, we've got it as a TIFF format. I'm going to save this to my desktop. It's going to come up with another screen, but you don't have to adjust any of these things. You can go to, since TIFF files are bigger, in some cases if you wanted to compress the file, you could go ahead and compress this here instead of after you've saved it, but we don't need that right now, so I'm just going to click OK. And I'm going to minimize this. So now we have our Converse TIFF file, which is a little bit better resolution for print. So as you can see, that worked pretty well. That's going to work for us. If we put that down to 2 or 3 inches, it's still going to be very clear and very easy to see. So again, when you're working with the resolution, image size, make sure you have the resample box checked, and that way you will be able to adjust the resolution along in proportion with the size. Okay, so now this image is 300 pixels per inch at 3 inches by 2.487 inches. That's the maximum size it can be at that resolution without pixelating. Okay, so thanks for listening. I hope this helps. If you have questions, feel free to ask me in class or email me. Talk to you soon.